Hello and welcome to the GMS Magazine YouTube and podcast channel. I am Paco Garcia, your host, and this is the Board Game Interview Room. This is the show in which I'm lucky enough of getting together with people from the board game industry and ask them a ton of questions about the designs, their games, and the industry in general. Today I have with me Evan Gibbs. Evan has designed and published a game with his wife called Robo Junkyard. The game is called that, not his wife. The game is a trick-taking card game in which you have to get rid of all the cards in your hands by getting rid of all the parts from robots that you don't want because they are like redundant pieces. That's what it's called. It's called a junkyard, which is, by the way, a very difficult word to pronounce for me, just so you know. The game looks beautiful. I'm not kidding. Those little robots are cute as anything. Gorgeous. Gorgeous things. It looks like a terrific, fun game. So I wanted to get together with Evan and find out, where does it come from? Why should people buy this game now that it's out? Where to get it? So I asked him a lot of questions. So without further ado, thank you so much for being there. Please do remember to subscribe to the channel and or leave a review in iTunes. That helps us a great amount. And I'll see you at the end of the interview. Have fun. Evan, welcome to the show. You are your first timer in the GMS Magazine channel. Very nice having you around, man.
Oh, thank you so much. Happy to be here for sure.
Good. Anyway, because I don't know you. I don't know you yet. Because this is the first time ever that we face each other in this manner or any other. I don't know how good you are at answering questions. So this is something that, don't take it personally. I put everybody through this. Everyone. It's the same tough, relentless test to know if you are a politician or if you actually can answer questions.
Okay. Great. So if I fail, I'm not a politician.
Correct, basically. Yes.
Excellent.
So that makes you a person.
Excellent.
Right away. Okay, so question number one, tea or coffee?
Oh gosh. That's you start off with the hardest question, I feel like, because I love both. I think I have to go with coffee because I drink it every day. Yep. But I certainly really like tea also. I love matcha tea specifically. Okay, but good. I drink tea, or I drink coffee all the time. Like I drink it every day. So I think I'm going to go with coffee. Good. That's a very good answer. Very good indeed. Okay. The beach or the mountain? I have to go with the beach. Although you can probably tell from my skin that I don't get a lot of beach time, but I think I would prefer being on a nice beach than I don't think I'd do well on a mountain.
Okay.
Hiking up one or the cold and all that.
Okay. Cars or motorbikes?
Cars. They're safer.
True. Very true. So true. Okay. Now it's getting harder. Fantasy or science fiction?
I have to go fantasy.
Okay.
I'm more into Lord of the Rings than Star Wars. I hope well, Star Wars is like a science fiction fantasy, but
I've never considered Star Wars to be science fiction. I've always thought it's science fantasy because it's so out there. And I've got into some hot water with some people for saying this. Because they immediately try to explain how lasers would work and how the lightsaber would be able to work, and I just look at them and think, you're inventing science that is never going to exist.
Yeah. I know, yeah, there would have to be like an end to the lightsaber, right? Like, or something.
Also,
so it's magic. I agree.
Exactly. Thank you. See, I like you a lot. Okay, last question. Zombies or vampires?
I'm gonna have to go with vampires. Vampires are really cool. Like, especially if you're gonna hang out with one. I mean, they're both kind of dangerous, but at least you can like talk to the vampire, right?
Yeah, that's true. And, at least if they try to eat you, it's for a purpose.
Yeah.
rather than
and they might like just turn you into one of them and then you become immortal and stuff, right?
exactly.
Where like a zombie, like I don't know if I'd want to be that kind of immortal, I guess.
No. Yeah, it must be really boring because I mean, at least when you're a vampire, if you have nothing to do, you can go to sleep, wake up in a couple of 100 years, and then you have something else to think about. But if you're a zombie, you just go to.
Yeah. Also, you get to sleep in a cool coffin. Like that's, you know.
Yeah, and wear a cape. So now a vampire is definitely good. Right.
Yeah.
Now that we've got the initial nonsense aside, of course, we're here to talk about your game, which I've watched a couple of videos, and it really looks so much fun with so much potential. You've designed a card game called Robo Junkyard. Why? Firstly, why did you go for it and decide to design this game?
Why did we design the game, or why did we make it robots? It's like a robot game.
Both.
Okay. So the first answer is we actually made a board game. So we, meaning my wife and I made her a board game for her birthday, and so I made it for her birthday, and then we were like, hey, there's this game competition at KublaCon, which is a convention. They had like a game design competition. It was like, might as well submit it. And it did pretty bad. It didn't do bad. It didn't do great. It didn't make the finals or anything. And at that point we were like, I think we could make this better. And then there's this process where we went and redesigned it. She redid all of the art. It was completely new. We submitted it the next year, and then it did really well. And at this point, we weren't sure if we wanted to produce board games or card games or anything like that. And then it did really well there, made the finals, and I got a little trophy and everything. And I was talking to other game designers, and we were talking about, like, this could actually be a thing. Right. And we're like, okay, so we're starting to get quotes from manufacturers and going like, we could kickstart this. We could go to a publisher or whatever. At some point, we decided we wanted to try to do a Kickstarter, and I was researching it and all this stuff. And I realized that this game is really big. And I didn't want to just jump in with this game into a Kickstarter with no other experience. And at that point, we had started working on another card game because nothing gives you ideas for games like making games. Right. So hello.
That's Wellington. Hello, who's very hungry, by the way. So yeah, he's my companion.
Oh, your animal companion.
Beautiful. Absolutely, yes. He's my family.
We have one of those too, but he's getting groomed right now, so he's getting his haircut. So
no, he's getting hungry. That's why he's pivoting around me. He wants to eat. Yes. So anyway, sorry, I interrupted you.
No problem. I think I interrupted myself. It's cool. We were working on this card game, and we were like, this would be a lot better to start with this Kickstarter because it's nice and small. It's really fun. Let's try this first. And then so we bunkered down on working on this card game, Robo Junkyard. It wasn't robot themed at the time. Okay. So that's why we started with that one, because it was a little smaller and easier to produce and learn the ways. And we really, we're really into the game. The reason it's robot themed was because it was an abstract card game before, where it's a card shedding game. So you're just trying to get rid of all your cards.
Okay.
And so there was kind of this feeling of like it's like you're getting rid of your junk. And so when we came up with that, it kind of became like, what if you're like a robot trying to sort out and throw junk? And then it kind of like became this like little world of these little robots trying to get rid of junk. It was cute.
I was going to say, they look absolutely adorably cute. I mean, the kind of thing that you could make, plush toys and sell them all over the world because they look absolutely fantastic. Who did the design? Who did the design for those?
My wife Holly did the design on them.
They look amazing.
Yeah, thank you. The only one I can take any credit for is the little blue one. We got together and we sketched out little sketches of them before, doing finalized designs. And that one I made kind of the shape and feel of. The rest of them she did like 100%. And that one she did all the final work on it too. So
That's amazing. I mean, they look absolutely lovely. And I have to say as
we
well,
do have stickers for them. I have them on my water bottle. So
well,
we needed it. We were taking a picture to prove that they're water resistant. So we put it on my water bottle, and now I have a Robo Junkyard themed water bottle.
That is very cool. That is very, very cool indeed. And I have to say, I love also the website because you have all sorts of really cute, lovely animations going on. Are you too into, design, media production in your real lives?
Thank you so much. In our real life, our trade skills, Holly, my wife, is a textile designer.
Okay.
But I think she's a wonderful character designer from the robot. And I'm an animator. So that's what I went to school for and do like on contract work kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So that's why there's so many animations and stuff on the website and on our videos and everything. And thank you so much.
No, I mean, it shows. And the thing is, this is something that I tell an awful lot of people. Although my area of expertise is more to do with RPG publishing, board games is more my, it's a hobby I really love. But I wouldn't know where to start if I had to publish a board game, but a role-playing game I do. And one of the things I tell people always is just play to your strengths. If you know how to do something well, do that very, very well and let everybody else do everything else. So the fact that you have taken, the textile design, because I could easily see these robots in all sorts of garments. They make so much sense, and I can see the animation. The fact that you've played to your strengths, I think it shows very, very well.
That's really good advice. That is super good advice. When you're going into board game design or anything, there's so much that goes into it and so much you could utilize that, like, if you have any skills, they'll probably be able to manifest if you make it that way.
Absolutely. But the thing is also, so many people, it's very tempting to go into doing something else because you have seen it done before, like car design or the box design or even the layout for the rules. And everything has its own skills, So if you have a specialization already, going for that, it just makes sense to me. But that's just me. I'm talking about that. Sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, and once you learn one thing, it's easier to branch off into the next thing, right?
Correct.
Like we're artists, so we're not really illustrators, but we illustrated all of the cards, right? So we had to kind of learn a lot of the skills for that kind of thing, So, but
exactly,
there's a lot that goes into it. So
yes, absolutely, yes. So actually, that segues very nicely into the next question that I wanted to ask you, which is, what was the design process for you? How did you start to flesh out what would later on become the final product?
Good question. Like which part of the stage of it? Because there's like the original like idea, and then there's like we have a prototype. How do we make it into an actual thing? And how do we?
Well, all of it, because the interesting thing to me is, firstly, that it started as an abstract, and then you decided to take it as a robots getting rid of their junk.
Yeah.
This game could have been a number of things, and yet you decided to go into a card game. How do you, for instance, one of the things that I've taken a look into when I was doing a bit of research on the game is the fact that you have some conditions for the cards, so you get rid of the cards, and the next round you have to do so and so and so and so. How did the idea come about?
Okay, so the original design of the game, I was playing a card game with my friends at a convention. Is actually the convention that I did the contest for the game design, I think the first time. But anyways, so we were playing this card game, and we're like, it's a card shedding game, so you're trying to get rid of all your cards. And we're like, it's actually kind of an interesting game, but it only really gets interesting towards the end because you are kind of counting everyone's cards for like the whole game, and then the very end it gets interesting. And the idea for this game was to take that idea of like trying to guess what other people have and make it sooner, so make it really make it happen all more often. So that original idea was actually, this game was going to be a 2-player like card reading Yomi kind of game where you're trying to guess what the other person has, and it's very tight. And I play tested that a lot with my wife, and she didn't really like it, and I didn't really like it. It was okay. There was interesting things, and that's about where the card abilities came from. Because if they were all just numbers and they didn't do anything, it got really stale and then it wasn't interesting. So some of the cards had abilities. And it was kind of like you're trying to guess if they had this one in their hand or if they put it somewhere else, right? And then it kind of became more of a party game and it became 3 and 4 players. It's also 2 players still, so it's 2 to 4 players now. But in that process, when we tried it with 3 people, it became a lot more fun. And because specifically because you could kind of guess together, like 2 people can go, I think they have this in their hand. And then you can go, oh, we'll try and play this. Right. So that made it more interesting. And then just more like there were more abilities came out on the cards. And then a lot of them changed. So we have more abilities than we have cards now. So every single card has an ability now. And some abilities got scrapped because they weren't as good as, the ones that are there now. So that's kind of generally how it went from like the concept to like the design that it is now. And then one thing changed. That's kind of generally how it works. And there's like specifically how each of these abilities and the turn structure and stuff came into play too. But then when we added the robots and the theme, we decided Holly was saying like, oh, all these robots feel super unique. What if each of them have like a unique thing about their deck? And so then each deck has their own specific, unique card to it also. That came after we started theming it. So that kind of changed how the rules of the game worked a little bit. To have a little bit of uniqueness when you pick your robot.
I like the sound of that an awful lot. Okay, so you have decided that. How was the prototyping process for you? How did you do it?
I typed out a lot of cards and printed them out and cut them up and put them in little card sleeves. I do that pretty much every time because we've been making a lot of card games. And then you play it, and immediately every time I'm like, okay, this is gonna work out great. And you play it the first time, and it's like, oh man, this really needs to change, like completely. And then you turn the cards on the other side and you write on them because I'm like, oh, I thought it was gonna be good on this, and it's literally just like text and numbers and whatever, super simple stuff. So you can just write and scratch it out and change it. And at some point, I think like 90% of the cards were flipped over and written on. And then I reprint them out and try out, new ideas. A lot of I never write down rules at the beginning. They change constantly.
Okay.
It's really messy and like a messy sketchbook, and we'll write down stuff and draw stuff and then at some point, like you'll start to we got a structure that kind of worked. Like we have what the game is. Maybe the number of cards would change. Maybe the abilities would change, stuff like that. But we had a system that we would start changing cards. And so that was kind of the medium part. And then I started showing it to friends. And then like abilities changed and stuff like that. A number of cards changed, but not like the structure. The structure at some point kind of got set. I think, did that answer your question?
Yes, it did, because it's I find that creative process very interesting, because I know for a fact that an awful lot of people find bringing the idea into some sort of playable reality very daunting, and it's what stops an awful lot of people from actually creating the game. So the fact that you're okay with it being messy, that it doesn't need to be anything too polished for you to start playing and messing with it and throwing away and rewriting and doing something new, I think that is actually pretty cool. I like the thought of that.
Yeah, I should show you like what the original cards looked like. They're nothing special. But I think also just having someone, especially in like a board game or card game kind of world, like having someone to play with, like my wife's right here and she's willing to put up with it, right? Just like, yeah, like whatever is really helpful. And I know my brother and my best friend, one of my best friends was played the early prototype before there was anything. So just having people that you're just willing to show whatever to is really helpful, or that are happy to play it too, or to try it. So that really helps.
At what point did you branch out into playtesting the game with somebody else? Because playing with friends and family, it's all good and proper, and it's possibly the best way to start, but their feedback is not always going to be unbiased, is it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. I mean, as soon as you can do it, I think the better. With Robo Junkyard, I didn't bring it to like a game night with people until we had like art, and I think we had printed out like the colored version of the piece of the cards on paper. They still changed after that because one of my friends is really, really good at being completely like blunt, being like, "Oh, I don't like this. Oh, this didn't change." He's like, I show like every one of my games to him now because he has made big changes in all of the games we've made so far. So he's really helpful. It's nice to have a friend like that. But also, I would say nowadays with the new game that we're testing, there's really good online groups right now. Mm-hmm. Especially because of, the pandemic and everything. It's hard to get up and meet in person, but there's a lot of groups that meet on Discord and they play test on Tabletop Simulator. Yeah. It's really great. It's really good to get feedback from people. And then you don't know these people most of the time because the way that it's set up. So that's a really great way to feedback. I would say you could do that as soon as you have something that's actually playable and works. That's, I would say do that as soon as possible. You have to put it on Tabletop Simulator, which, is a thing. But as soon as you can do that, that's helpful for sure. And the only thing I would say about that is you're playing with other game designers. Okay. So, you won't necessarily get feedback about it being intuitive because they'll probably understand and everything. But yeah, it's something to keep in mind.
Now, how was the playtesting process for you? Did you find anything in the game that you thought, damn it, why didn't I think about this before?
Yeah. Actually, there were a couple things that we had going on. I'm trying to think of something that we added. I know something that we took away. Mm-hmm. So in the game, you play a hand, you have 12 cards, you try to get rid of them. The first person that does gets victory credits. And that's the victory condition, is you have to get enough victory credits. And then the round resets. So that's why, that's how we got the, interesting play happening faster as you're playing multiple hands, shorter versions of hands. Anyways, so you get victory credits. One of the cards, actually, I had two of the cards, spend victory credits to do something. And I was really trying to get it to work because it would be a really powerful thing that you do by spending your victory credits to do something special. And my friend was like, this just doesn't work in this game. It's not going to work for two reasons. One is because you see the cards all like every time, every game you see the same cards. It's not something that you can get and then like try to go for. Like you see it all the time. So either it's going to be busted and you want to do it every time and you can do it every time. Or it's just not going to be good 99% of the time to try and balance it, right? So you see this card and it has all this text on it and it spends stuff and you don't really want to do it most of the time. It just doesn't work. I think that idea of spending your victory condition might be good for another game, but it didn't work for this one. And he was the one that pointed it out to me in the because I was trying to get it to work in so many different ways. But he was the one that just says, this idea doesn't work. And here's why. And so, I ended up cutting it happily, actually, but in the end. So
that was good. Okay. So you've gone through the whole playtesting process. You decide that you want to have it. What was the manufacturing process like for you? Did you have any experience with this kind of process in the past?
No. Not at all. I got a bunch of quotes from. I was part of some groups and asked about a list of manufacturers. I found a bunch of them. Got a whole bunch of quotes. I would ask people like, oh, do you work with this company? How's this? And actually, when I started the Kickstarter, another company contacted me after I had gotten quotes and kind of came up with a price. And their price was really good. And their communication was very, very fast. So I was those are the ones we ended up going with. And the process was really pretty seamless with them. So that was really nice. The only thing was, because of all the pandemic stuff, there was some delays in shipping and stuff. But I mean, that couldn't be helped. But otherwise it was actually really good. It's pretty good because I work in graphics stuff all the time. So getting them like all the pictures and stuff, we did that ourselves. So we'd bounce it back and forth. So it went really well.
Okay, that sounds very good. So what does the game look like now? I mean, when people buy it, what are they going to get?
They'll get this box.
Yes.
So this is our box. And in it, they get 4 decks, 1 for each robot, and victory credits. So here, I'll just open it and show you. So we got the box. You get a little rule book, but on our website, we have a how to play video also. And then, so we have this nice little tray for the victory tokens. Nice. And then inside, you get kind of like the character that you play as cards. So there's 4 of those, 1 for each of the robots. And this is where you actually put your little victory tokens as you get them.
Okay.
And then each of the robots has their own little their deck of 12 cards, and they have their own little card backs with all of this descriptions about the robot. And then the front of the cards has the number and its ability on it, and the little picture of the junk that it is. So there's 48 of those cards, and then 4 of the character cards, and 20 or so of the victory credit tokens. 21. So it's a very portable little game. It's something that people can take away with them pretty much, to play anywhere. Yeah. So it should be able to fit in your backpack. And if you wanted to, you could put these cards in like a little, Ultra Pro like deck box or something if you want to make it even more compact. And I'm not sure where you'd put the tokens, but I'm sure you could, you might be able to, if you got one of the big like Commander style Magic deck boxes, you could definitely fit the cards and the tokens in there and make it even smaller, but it fits in this box pretty nice. So
there's no excuse not to take it absolutely anywhere, which is good. Okay. And lastly, because that's the last thing that we haven't spoken about yet, how does it play and how hard is it to learn?
It's pretty simple to learn after you play like one hand. Okay. So if you're showing like your family or people that don't normally play games or kids, I would say it takes like maybe a couple rounds to get used to the cards and the rules. But otherwise, it's simple for a gamer kind of gamer if you play RPGs or games, and it's pretty simple to pick up and play. But there's a lot of little like strategy and card reading and stuff that goes into it when you start to play. So, yeah.
Okay. Tell me about the future of both this game and you as a designer, because I bet that you're not going to sit still for long. Are you planning on doing some expansions for Robo Junkyard, or is this, that's it, I'm moving on to the next game?
We would love to do an expansion. Okay. I mean, we have ideas and stuff, but we might not do it for this game. It's one of those like, there's so many things that we're working on. We actually have 3 games that we're trying to do next year. So we'll see what happens with that. Since we have games in the pipeline, we're focusing on those right now. And then maybe one of those might get expansions instead, or if there's, we could even do like a print and play expansion for Robo Junkyard. We're not really sure about that yet, but right now I think we're good. I'm comfortable saying like this is like going to be the core good, like simple game to play, compact.
I think,
But you never know. I don't want to
well,
say like it'll never have an expansion either, right?
I'm just thinking, talking about Star Wars, it would be really cool to have Star Wars Junkyard, where people have to get rid of X-wing parts or Y-wing parts or stuff like that, or Jedi lightsabers just to make your own or something like that. I think something like that would be.
That's a fun idea. Like, what would the abilities be in like like an X-wing engine or something?
Exactly. That would be pretty amazing. And depending on what cars you take, you can build one ship at the end of the game or another, and that's what would give you the credit. What is it that you're getting? Or Transformers Junkyard. Okay, and now I'm talking crazy. Hey, right? Okay,
Transformers Junkyard sounds really fun because actually in the game there's a rule that if you have two of the same number, you can play them at the same time. So or more. So like if you play multiples of things, can they transform into something? You're giving me ideas now.
That'd be cool. That'd be awesome. Okay. Last but by no means least, if people want to get hold of your game, how can they buy it?
So right now on evansgames.com, which is our website, we have a web store. That's the best place. Also, we're very limited in game stores right now, but if you want your game store to carry it, you can have them email me. My email's up on the website. It's evan@evansgames.com. Social media stuff. But if you want to buy it, go to evansgames.com or just see it. We have all the webpage of stuff. So.
Okay. Actually, is there any European distribution, and is the rules book in any other language?
It's only in English, but we do ship worldwide.
Okay. Good. So basically, people, where to get it. So go for it. Right. Okay.
Thank you.
Now we can chill out for a couple of minutes so that I can ask you the last 3 questions that I have for you today to end this interview on a very Zen philosophical note. So exactly. These are the hardest questions that you're going to face for a long time, probably. So let's go for it. Question number 1. What is the best advice that no one has ever given you?
That no one has ever given me?
Yeah.
Oh, that's hard. Yeah, okay. That's a good one. I'm trying to think of something that's like that no one told me. Like didn't tell me specifically, like I never heard this from someone. I have to come up with like a piece of advice.
Yes, like, oh my God, what? I wish somebody had told me this when I was a child or something like that.
I think the biggest I'm trying to think if like no one if I was the one that like came up with this advice or whatever, but there's something to putting effort into stuff even if you don't want to do it.
Okay.
Something like, and it sounds like if I'm like a kid at heart and I'm already rebelling against this idea, but like if you're like if you're in school and there's a class that you don't like if you like there's probably something there that you can find interest in or value in, probably, because I hated history and like in school, and I think now I'm kind of like, history is actually interesting. There's stuff to learn from it and whatever, and I should have paid attention, but I did for whatever. But I think there are a lot of classes that I actually did that with at some point when I realized like, oh, there's some point where you're like, okay, when you put in work into something, like it can really be a really cool thing. Yeah. And then I started doing that in areas that I didn't do that otherwise, and it started to grow. So I guess the advice is like, try to be open-minded. And if you don't want to do something and you kind of have to, or even if you are just going outside your comfort zone, like just try to find that thing that you might be interested in. And you know what? Maybe you might not find anything.
Okay, well, maybe, but at least you tried. Okay.
But if you go into something going like, oh, I just don't want to do this, try to be like, okay, I'm going to see if there's something interesting here, I guess.
Okay. That's a very good one. Okay, question number 2. What's the best mistake that you would like to repeat again?
Ooh, okay. The best mistake I would like to repeat again. These are really tough questions.
Thank you.
I like it. Do you have a quick one while I think?
Well, I can give you a third question and see if that sparks the second one. Okay, imagine that you have a time machine.
Let me see if something comes back.
Okay, I imagine you have a time machine and you go back in time, as you do, and you meet your 10-year-old self and you say to your 10-year-old self, do not do this. What is this?
Don't fall into the trap that you can only do one thing.
Okay, that's a very good one.
When I was graduating high school, I was kind of like, I have to either go into computer programming or animation, and that's going to be my life. I'm either going to like work on animated movies or I'm going to like program on a computer. And I ended up doing animation for school, and then I ended up doing programming, and now I'm doing board game design, and I've done product design. I've done all sorts of stuff. So like, don't like, it's good to specialize in something, but like, you don't have to do just one thing.
That's good. That's very good advice. I think your 10-year-old self will be very proud of you, of your future self. So yeah.
I think so. He'd be pretty happy, pretty cool with a game designer. 'Cause that's what I kind of always wanted to do. So,
excellent.
The best mistake. It's all of the little mistakes that you make when designing things. I think I make them all the time, and because there's so many happy accidents that come out when you're making something. It's like redoing stuff that, like, there's some card designs. I love cycling. When you play a card, draw a card. Like I always put too much in my games, and some of them stay. And sometimes I make the mistake of not putting in things that I like. So like, I don't know, just like the constant creative process of making mistakes and bad decisions, and then some of them working out actually better, I think would be the mistakes that I want to continue to do. So.
Sounds good to me. Evan, thank you so much for being with me today. I really look forward to seeing what else you come up with, because I get the feeling that it's going to look just absolutely beautiful and cute as Robo Junkyard, and that would be amazing.
Thank you so much. We have a page for our next game on the website.
Okay.
Where it's bunnies celebrating or they're having a party that's space themed. So that's our next game. So if you want to see it, it's on the website.
That sounds amazing.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a ton of fun.
Anytime, and hopefully we'll do another interview when the bunnies come out.
Totally. Yeah, that sounds fun.
And that's it. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly did. And I'm so looking forward to getting my copy of Robo Junkyard, because I get the feeling that is going to come out at the table really often. Really, really often. I can see that happening. I already have in mind a few friends who are going to enjoy the game a ton and a half. But until the next time, truly appreciate it. That you are there. It is seriously appreciated. By all means, do get in touch with us. Follow us in our page in Facebook or in Twitter, where I am at GMS Magazine. And I very much look forward to hearing from you. There's a bunch of links in the show notes and video description. But until the next time, again, thank you for being there, and I will talk to you very, very soon. Take care.